Republicans just released their budget resolution, and in it, they're aiming to cut Medicaid by at least $880 billion. And they want to cut SNAP, aka food stamps, by at least 20%. $880 billion. Now, where did they get that number from? Oh, well, would you look at that? It turns out $880 billion is the entire Medicaid budget, meaning this budget from House Republicans seeks to eliminate Medicaid completely.
The Republicans are planning to cut Medicaid, to cut food stamps, to fund the extension of the Trump tax cuts for the very wealthy.
The House Republicans have released their budget resolution, and in it they seek to cut $880 billion from Medicaid. And if you don't know how much we spend on Medicaid per year, I didn't either. I went and looked it up. $880 billion. So they are wanting to cut Medicaid 100% out.
There's over 70 million Americans who get Medicaid, whether that is for seniors in long-term care, whether that is over 30 million children, Americans with disabilities.
This ruthless Republican budget will rip away health care from low-income and working families and children and take us back to the days where if you get sick, you either go without treatment or you go bankrupt.
You know, anybody that's on Medicaid that, requires Medicaid, then you need to tell them now and to start preparing. They're also cutting food stamps by 20%. And they're doing all of that while also passing $4.5 trillion in tax cuts to the top 1%.
So the Republicans have proposed in their new budget plan that Medicaid be eliminated. They said they wouldn't touch it, but yet they lied to you again. We told you they were lying.
They want to throw tens of millions of Americans off of health care in order to pay for tax cuts for rich people and corporations.
You said that this is just the start of the process. Can you say unequivocally that further down the line there won't be any cuts to Medicaid programs?
Yeah, so look, let me clarify what we're talking about with Medicaid. Medicaid is hugely problematic because it has a lot of fraud.
He said something that really interests me, that there's this GAO report showing $5 trillion of fraud. Well, I certainly would be interested in seeing that report. The size of the entire budget every year is only $6.5 trillion. So how in the world $5 trillion out of $6.5 trillion is really fraud? I find that a little hard to believe.
Republicans are coming for your health care. If you have a kid in JCPS, Republicans are coming after their education. Fewer teachers, fewer opportunities, and no more free school lunch. If you are one of our veterans or our seniors or the 1 in 5 Kentucky kids going hungry as we speak, Republicans want to take away your next meal.
Here you go again. The last time the Republicans had a majority in the House and Senate and President Trump in the White House, they passed a terrible bill that was a tax cut for the rich that gave 83% of the benefits to the wealthiest people, the top 1% in our country, and added $2 trillion to the national debt. This year, they're doubling down on that, $4 trillion to the national debt.
The Republican budget represents the Republican betrayal of the middle class. It cuts at least $1.5 trillion, including at least $880 billion from Medicaid, in order to partially pay for trillions of dollars in tax cuts, most of which go to the richest 1% of Americans. It also increases the deficit and the national debt to the tune of $4 trillion. Even a number of House Republicans have come out upon reading the bill and recognized this fact.
They convinced me in there. I'm a no.
Is there anything?
Look let me their own numbers. If the Republican plan passes under the rosiest assumptions, which aren't even true, we're going to add $328 billion to the deficit this year. We're going to add $295 billion to the deficit the year after that, and $242 billion to the deficit after that, under the rosiest assumptions. Why would I vote for that?
Steve, you're going to show us how the GOP tax cuts favor the rich.
The central part of it is extending the tax cuts that were voted in 2017, that those tax cuts are what we call highly regressive, meaning they favor the wealthy substantially over the less wealthy. So people in the lowest 20% of the economy would get a 0.6% increase in their after-tax wages under this plan. And people all the way up through the 80% below the top would get still 1.4% or less. When you get up here, the top 20%, the top 1%, you see the percent increase they get in their after-tax income. Let's turn that into dollars. If you're down here, you're going to get $1,000. You might get $1,900 if you're close to the top. The top quartile gets $9,000. The top 1% gets an average of $70,000. So these are, again, what we call highly regressive tax cuts. Generally, we like to see them favor people at the bottom, not at the top. These are the opposite.
It doesn't include no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, and no taxes on Social Security. So just another thing he lied to you about so he could get tax cuts for his rich friends.
Guess what's not in it?
No tax on Social Security.
Not there. Guess what else isn't in it?
We will end all taxes on overtime.
Not there either. Want to know what still isn't in the bill?
No tax on tips.
Nope. Not there. Guess what is in the bill? $4.5 trillion in tax cuts, 83% of which go to the richest 0.1% of all Americans.
72 million Americans depend on Medicaid, many of which are children and the elderly. Now, to fund his tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans, he is now asking his cult members in Congress to cut $880 billion out of Medicaid. Those who will be impacted the highest include Louisiana, West Virginia, and Kentucky. The next group that will be highly impacted include Mississippi, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Alaska. The Medicaid recipients in these states, if Donald Trump and the Republican Party have their way, could see their benefits cut in half. FAFO.
So you can see why this is such a Republican betrayal of the middle class. It betrays the very folks who voted for Donald Trump.
So this is what you voted for, MAGA.
Medicaid is going to be gone by the end of the month. Food stamps is going to be on its way out of the door by the end of the month. And I can't believe y'all really voted for this and thought y'all was going to come out on the winning end.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route and how fast.
Unfortunately, it passed because they hold the majority. Republicans were able to pass the budget resolution. Final vote, 217 to 215. All yes votes came from Republicans. One Republican, Representative Thomas Massie of Kentucky, joined the Democrats and voted no. Republicans in the House have a one-seat voting margin. This one vote margin makes every single Republican member vote absolutely critical.
We have the opportunity to gain 3 more Democratic seats before the summer. So the Republicans would lose their majority and they would not be able to get anything done. So there are 2 seats up for grabs in Florida on April 1st. Gabe Alamont and Josh Wheel. We need to get them the wins here. This will make a huge difference. Follow these people, subscribe to their sites, repost, donate, volunteer. If you live in Florida, share, save, and mark your calendars to vote on April 1st. There's another House seat up for grabs in the 21st Congressional District of New York. If you are in any of these areas, you need to get out and vote for the special elections.
Basically, they're all a bunch of dumb fucks. When I said I would lower taxes, they thought I meant theirs. And when I said I would be cutting programs, they thought I meant someone else's. They are easily fooled because they're dumb as rocks.
Now you're finding out, you dumb fucking idiots. Now you're just figuring this shit out. You're so fucking stupid and you deserve it. You fucking deserve it because you're so dumb.
Kamala Harris is looking real good now, huh? I said Kamala Harris is looking real good now, huh?
Y'all wanted to play the fuck around game so goddamn badly. Well, you are fixing to find out very bigly.